Now welcome to another lightning response video, where this time we got a question from Dr. Mafoni, who asked, "Hey Thor, with the re-release of Revenge of the Sith upon us, it got me thinking about the deleted scenes from that film and Attack of the Clones. Both placed a lot of focus on Padme and Anakin's relationship, and especially with the older film, seemed to take extra steps to establish their relationship. What do you think of those scenes, and do you think they strengthened the films? Or do you feel Lucas was right to cut them? Thanks." Okay, so this is a good yet kind of tricky question, and I think the answer is maybe a little bit of both yes and no, because especially talking about Attack of the Clones here, which is what I'm pretty much exclusively going to do, I do think that movie feels rather rushed. And not in the way that all Star Wars movies are very fast-paced and just kind of go, and they take you along for the ride without maybe giving you a ton of context or exposition along the way. Yet they still work because you can still follow along for the most part, because the stories are actually very character-driven in all reality. But Attack of the Clones is different. I think it is the least character-driven and the one that is most focused on everything else around it. Not that the characters are lost in the bigger story or anything like that, but you really kind of need to know what is happening to make the story of these characters make sense, I feel. And so the movie ends up feeling rushed in a way where it really does feel like we're missing things we kind of need to know, or that would just make the movie better and make it make more sense if things were slowed down and expanded upon. There's just so many things going on, or that we don't know with, like the Separatists, or why they left the Republic, what this bill the Senate is voting on is all about, how a clone army was made in secret by some Jedi named Sifo-Dyas. What's the story with Count Dooku being a former Jedi and now he is leading the other side, these Separatists? Why exactly are they trying to kill Padme, and so on? And speaking of Padme, we have the whole Padme-Anakin relationship in this one, which I really think could be, if not needed to be, done a bit better. The film really needs to sell us on these two falling in love with each other. That relationship, in a manner of speaking, is the crux of the whole trilogy. You have to believe in his love for her, Anakin's love for Padme, that it is the final piece of the puzzle, or the straw that breaks the camel's back, that turns him to the dark side, with him trying to save her and all that in the next film. So the stronger that relationship is or feels here, the more we believe it and buy into it, the better it makes pretty much everything. It makes the whole trilogy better. And honestly, and no, I'm not trying to rip apart Attack of the Clones, I do enjoy the film, but I don't know that it does that very well. I mean, I can understand Anakin's infatuation with her, nor do I have a problem with him acting awkward and saying some really kind of cheesy lines. We are talking about a guy who has, as far as we know anyway, never ever tried to flirt before in his life, so of course it is going to be rough. So I do think his lines work, and that's all well and good. Yes, they are strange, they are cringy, but they are supposed to be. It also makes sense that he's thought about her every day since the events of the Phantom Menace and all that this crush on her has endured for all these years. I'm fine with that as well. I just don't know that I buy Padme falling for him, or so quickly falling for him, falling madly, deeply in love with him, as she kind of even says. Especially when, for most of the movie, or for most of their time together, he does seem a little unstable, and even admits to her that he killed women and children. Sure, they were Tuskens and they're animals, but even still, they were living, pretty sentient beings that you slaughtered. And I know sometimes women do go for the bad boy and all that, and that George Lucas wanted this James Dean rebel without a cause thing with Anakin. And some of the deleted scenes maybe do help with that a little bit. There's a couple that take place at Padme's family home with her parents and her sister, and they're trying to tell her, her family is trying to tell her that Anakin likes her, as if she couldn't have figured that out all by herself. And that also has the two of them, has Anakin and Padme together, just sort of talking to each other, getting to know each other better, and that feel pretty organic, pretty good, actually. And never minding the fact that if I thought assassins were after me, the last place I would ever go is my home, for many different reasons, one of which being you'd think that is the first place they would look for you, though at the same time maybe that's the last place they would ever look for you. Who would think that if you knew you were being hunted by assassins that you would go home? And for two, I wouldn't want to put my family, my sister and her kids, which were there, Padme's sister and her kids are literally there, I would not want to put them at risk. But never minding all that, I do think showing them together like this helps things a little bit. Showing Anakin and Padme just kind of chatting, just being normal people in this very casual setting does help convince you that there could be a bond that forms there. But all that said, I do see why George Lucas cut those scenes. They would indeed slow the movie down quite a bit and right in the middle of it as well. And Star Wars movies do, again, they do have a reputation of moving at a very good, brisk pace. Plus, these scenes of Anakin at Padme's home talking to her dad and stuff like that, they, yeah, maybe don't feel very Star Wars-y to a lot of people. They might feel a bit out of place to your average Star Wars fan or your average moviegoer who isn't expecting a character to take their not boyfriend, home to meet their parents for dinner. Anyway, there's also then some other deleted scenes that do touch on some of the other things that could use a bit more fleshing out to make the film feel better. There's a scene pretty much right at the start or right after the first assassination attempt where Padme addresses the Senate and she is urging them to not give in to their fears and to vote down the Military Creation Act, which she says is essentially just a declaration of war. There's then another scene or an extension of the one scene between Jocasta Nu and Obi-Wan where she talks about Dooku and how he was a free thinker that didn't always get along with the Council, much like how Qui-Gon didn't, which you'd actually think is something Obi-Wan would have already known, given he is Qui-Gon's apprentice and that Qui-Gon was Dooku's apprentice. And again, with these scenes and some of the others I didn't mention, I like them. I think they're pretty good. I think they're fine, but I can also see why they were cut out because I don't know that they really give us anything more than the little we could already infer from the things we do get in the movie, if that makes sense. And so again, I do get why they are cut. I get why they are cut for the sake of a movie that a very wide audience is going to watch, and for better or worse, that audience is going to expect things to move quickly, and for there to be a lot of action in a Star Wars movie. But I do think leaving them in there could have helped us understand a few things a bit better, maybe. Though in all reality, Attack of the Clones could use an extended edition that not only puts those scenes back in there, but gives us many, many, many more new ones because, to me at least, it feels like there's so much to the story that just never gets addressed, and that would make the movie and the story itself so much better if it did. You could turn Attack of the Clones into 2 films and still have much left unexplored, I feel like. And if I had one wish for the prequels, I would love to see Lucasfilm, not that I think they would ever actually do this, but I would love to see Attack of the Clones given the, shall we say, and/or treatment, and the movie turned into a very serious political drama that gives it all the time it needs to properly breathe and explore all these intricacies and have these characters fleshed out fully, because I do think there is a fantastic idea and a great story in there that is not a bad movie by any stretch, but is severely hampered by the fact that it has to be jammed into a 2-hour and 15-minute runtime. Alright, well that is going to be all I got for you this time. Now it is your turn. Take to the comments below. Tell me what you think of Attack of the Clones and the deleted scenes. Should they be in there? Should they not be in there? Should we get a extended cut of the film someday, somehow? Whatever the case may be, leave those comments below or ask a question for a future lightning response video, and let's talk some Star Wars. And so, until next time, thanks for watching.